Fáilteóid go dtí an ócáid seo. I'm James Cunningham. I'm the director of the Whitaker Institute here at NUI Galway. It's a great pleasure to have you all here, and thanks very much for coming along to this hopefully very stimulating and interesting sort of day for you, looking at in terms of exploring the extent and impact of the creative economy in terms of its social and economic sort of impact in peripheral regions. I suppose this is a culmination of, 2.5 years work in terms of this Creative Edge project funded by the Northern Peripheries programme, but I suppose it builds on, maybe 5 years work between NUI Galway and the Whitaker Institute and the Western Development Commission. Back in 08, 09, we worked together in terms of looking at how we can shine a spotlight on the creative industries, and also in terms of, particularly in peripheral regions like here in the west of Ireland, that it has a significant economic impact in terms of jobs and that, but also has a huge social impact in terms of the common glue, the sense of identity of place, the sense of purpose, and the uniqueness in terms of that has national, local, national and international relevance. I suppose in sort of putting together today's conference and all that, it reflects sort of the work of a number of partners on the project. So the focus of the project has been really around people, place and creative production. So looking at ways in terms of, in a very practical way, how we can support the creative industries in peripheral regions. So for our part as NUI Galway, you'll hear in a few minutes from my colleague Dr. Pat Collins in terms of just mapping what the whole creative industry looks like. And I suppose one of our ambitions in terms of, as part of the Whitaker Institute, is that we're looking at recasting and maybe helping people reconceptualise the importance of the creative industries as the way someone would describe the importance of the ICT sector, the importance of medical device sector. And we can see in terms of in our region, and there's a lot of commonalities with our partners in Craigavon in Seed, where Paul Cavan has really done fantastic work in relation to creating these creative hubs in peripheral and rural areas that are having a transformative effect. And then we move further north up into Finland and Sweden. So in Finland, our partners are Tornio University, which is an applied science, a University of Applied Sciences. So if anyone has ever heard of the Ice Hotel up in Finland, that's where in Kemi. And basically, that region has less sparsely populated than here, but faces similar challenges of a very, very strong sense of identity of a place, very strong cultural heritage there, very strong in terms of television and film production, and have the same challenges as we have in Northern Ireland and here in the west of Ireland. And then our partners in Sweden, Film Vastaboden. In some senses, pioneering in terms of what they have achieved in terms of putting a spotlight on the Swedish film industry, being very innovative in terms of looking at a mentoring programme, very much in terms of pioneering on those. And I suppose our partners in Kemi Tornio in Finland, I forgot to mention, creating this whole idea of the creative steps. So looking at creating opportunities for young creatives in terms of, looking at in terms of future job opportunities and how they can, develop their talents in their own right, but also maybe working with companies and that. And when you think of it, creative people are 4 times more likely to create a company or their own jobs. So, when you're looking at in terms of the context and where Europe faces, it's a significant sort of statistic. If I look at, what I would encourage you to look at is that we're creating a number of resources online on our creativeedge.eu website. So, that will hopefully be of use to maybe some of you in terms of, and we have a very mixed audience here in terms of coming from different sort of perspectives. The whole idea is that there's tools, ways of thinking in terms of maybe shaping the conversations and action in terms of your own sort of domain areas. And also, what we have is a number of other sort of resources in terms of case studies, all of that, just to show in terms of the differences and commonality. Irrespective, when we start off on this project, we thought, okay, the different regions, they have distinctiveness in terms of place and culture. But they face, the big challenges in terms of the organisation of creative industries. So in terms of how the industry itself can support itself and also help itself, but also the challenges of being in sort of a peripherality is a one that can be overcome maybe with organisation, maybe with a focus, and maybe with some research that we have done here that helps in terms of for policymakers and others to put their arms around and say, okay, well, this is what the creative industries is about, and this is what it looks like in terms of employment, firms, and potential. One thing, I suppose, for me in terms of is that it had really shown in terms of the real opportunities we have. In some senses, maybe we don't make the most of it in terms of the creativity. And the creative industries that have been created in the sector. Pat will show you in a few minutes in terms of just the breadth and depth of the sector, not alone in this region, but also in our partner regions. But there are huge opportunities, and in some senses what I've been amazed and surprised at in some senses is just the commonalities in terms of the creative talent and capability that in each of those 4 regions that have made up this project. In some senses, despite the challenges, it's the can-do attitude, it's the ability maybe of persistence and resilience to keep going irrespective of the challenge that they face. In some senses, the willingness to give things a go or try things are very, very important. But then, I suppose the challenge is how, as part of this project is designed, is how do you get maybe more international focus, where maybe the local opportunities maybe are very, very modest in the future, where you look at a more world or international sort of market. So, without further ado, just let you know just the exits are where you came in, and there's one up here on my left, and just let you know, just turn off your phones, and that, I'd appreciate that. Food will be across the road in the King's Head after this first session around 12:30 at that time. So, and our interactive sessions really are designed, in some senses, they're short sort of overviews in terms of what we have done in the projects and the different perspectives, and then we would really appreciate in terms of your contributions, questions, and all that, because at the moment we are finalising our policy toolkit and different elements of the project, so your feedback and comments and perspectives would be greatly appreciated. So it gives me a great pleasure to introduce a very good colleague and friend from NUI Galway, Dr. Pat Pat Collins, sorry Pat. I feel I'm on stage and I've got into the acting mode, Pat, so apologies. My apologies. I have another good friend, Pat Gibbons, so in UCD, so apologies, Pat. So as I dig myself out of that hole, I could do an hour of comedy, but you wouldn't want to. You wouldn't want to hear that. But it's given me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Pat Collins from the Whitaker Institute and from the School of Geography and Archaeology. Pat really has been a pioneer in terms of, for us, in terms of this whole area. So I share, my office was next door to Pat when I joined in terms of what was CISC, now Whitaker. And I suppose over that time, Pat and I had a number of conversations about the importance of the sector and his ambition to really do research and to really sort of go out and engage with the whole sector and policymakers and all that. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Pat to talk about give you an overview in terms of the whole sector. So over to you, Pat.